We are now at one of the best parts of the Bible, or best parts of this gospel, where Jesus is set up on the cross and eventually is killed. Wonderful storytelling. Wonderful storytelling indeed. I want to get into this right away. We're going to call this, we're going to not call it, we're just going to name it what it is. And that is the 19th chapter. This actually means one, so it's a new beginning. All right, one is the beginning of something, so it's a new thing. So what they did, and this is still a continuation of the outside story, because we know that on the inside, when it comes down to the spirit of things, it goes a different route, and that smiting actually becomes God's wrath, and stuff like that. Well, anyways, on the outside, it's a more physical thing because it's a physical thing. So what he gets in this next one here is that he gets scourged by Pilate, and and the soldiers patted a crown of thorns, put it on his head. This is, they're up there, they're at the sixth chakra. This is being put on by, the main guy altogether. He gets a purple robe. They parade him around and they smote him with their hands. Jesus is quiet at this time. You have to understand that even in the story, he's playing the part because he's going through this symbolically for us, and this is for the outside. So for the Father side of this, he has to be given up before the crowd. He has to be crucified before the crowd. He has to be killed. Him and the two people that are with him. And it's just so interesting as we go about telling this story, instead of splitting it up like I've been doing for so long, just to go through a whole line of these things, tearing it apart has been really wonderful and eye-opening as well. So the chief priest, therefore, they are going to set him up with a sign. Of course, Pilate, he represents the outside, and the chief priests are representing like an inside situation, but they're still on the outside. One would like to call them, let's see, the Jews answered him, we have a law, because Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was more afraid. Oh, the problem lies on the guy who brought them there. He says there's more sin to the person that brought him there. There is more sin to the body. It's the skin. That's what he's talking about. And so when the Caiaphas hears this, or when Pilate hears it, he scares him a little more that he who sent them there bears the most sin. So he wants to go and wash his hands of this. I find nothing wrong with him, And so, do you know that I have the power to release you? He says, you wouldn't have the power to release me if it hadn't been given to you from up above. All right. And it just pisses him off again. Said, damn. So he takes him to a place called the Pavement. Again, in reality, this is the judgment seat. If this were in your head, this would be your the fornix of your brain. If this is on the outside of us, it just becomes an elevated place, and it's on the east. I mean, it's representing the west side of something, some kind of a hill or something. All right. And we know that because they use these names. It's this name, Gabbatha. This is what the Pavement is called. The Pavement is Gabbatha, and you look that up in Pavement. It's just a rise, something. So it's where you go to get judged. All right. The mercy seat is what you'd get on the other side. All right. And it was in the preparation of Passover, and it was about the 6th hour. And he said unto the Jews, "Behold your king." The 6th hour. He's right up on the, this whole idea is they haven't flipped over onto the other side. So they're still on the dead side, the 6th chakra side. That they're just not getting anywhere yet. But that's the outside. There's no salvation in traveling this path along the outside. La, 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 la. Let's see. Delivered him before us and his cross. All right, so he went about bearing his cross through the streets. This is number 8. And to the place called Golgotha. This is the place in the skull. This is still just outside of the holy city. So he's being killed outside of things. So he's still not an inside thing. They're taking all this stuff out on the physical side of this character, which never existed. All right. It's written in Greek and Latin. This idea of the soldiers when, let's see, well, there's a few things that I want to talk about. Is this idea that the soldiers, when they had crucified Jesus, they took his garments. And this idea that this garment was one seam and woven from top throughout. So they didn't rent it. So that means these garments were real. They're not this idea that he turned into a child and went before God in heaven by taking off his garments. All right. So they just cast lots for it. All right. So again, this is an outside approach to something that's an inside thing. And here we go. The chief of the priests wanted Pilate to write the King of the Jews. And I think it was Pilate wrote the title, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. So one's a little longer and one is a little more direct. All right. Again, we're talking about the two different sides. There's a solid side and then there's a spiritual side, even if those two are representing the lower mind. Remember, because too, the second beast is our emotions. The second beast, that's religion. And I'm going to tell you this too, as we get going down the road, they come up to them at the end because they want them to die sooner, that they break the legs of the two guys that are on the outside, and they don't break Jesus' legs because he's already dead. But this is where that fifth spear goes into his gut and releases what I spoke of earlier in our conversations, if you were there. It was of the blood and the water that came out of it. And this is this, instead of the gushing with the water inside of us, here is this gushing with the water and the blood outside of us. Remember, it's a person that drinks from his well, these rivers of life come alive in him. And of course, this is an outside thing. And so it's been poked and stuff like that. And as far as breaking the legs, those are meant to be broken because one of them is your father's and the other one is this beast. This one, we're going to break them because there'll be no more of that religion, because that's the side of them. The bone represents the connection between the flesh and the blood. And so this is the shatter, this place where these legs are shattered and broken. And the legs come out as being the fourth kingdom. And the fourth kingdom, in the four things and the way things that work, 4 represents the spiritual side. So these two are being shattered, and this is what they're doing. They're representing what's going to happen to the physical side of us that claim to be Jesus. But we know that on the other side of this is that what they do is they lose their power. The religion and the outside of us lose their power. And Jesus, the one that came and saved the day, the prince, nothing happens to him. But, it's still this idea that it's an outside thing. And then they're going to drag him down and take him off to some place and dress him up and get him ready for his next ventures. All right. So what he has to do is he has to hang out. Let's see. Then they took the body of Jesus, wound it in linen clothes and in spices, and as the manner of the Jews do for burial. Now the place where they crucified was in the garden, and the garden, a new sepulchre or something like that, wherein was never man laid before. And there they laid Jesus before, because of the Jews' preparation day for the scapular was nigh at hand. All right, well, this is that guy who was close, asking for Jesus's body so that nothing could come of it, that no one would steal it. All right, well, I don't know if I got the energy for another one to go into John 20, but we are going to exit out of this part because I think I told you enough of this information. It's the coolest stuff, you guys. So we've come right up to his death, and he's being taken to a tomb. And in our minds, what we would do is, this is the Spria Penialis, that we had come to this tomb, and there's this little electrical thing that's going to roll back the tomb and let Jesus out after it's been in there cooking for a little while. All right, but it's going to come up soon. And for now, I'm going to prepare this to go up and out. And if I have enough energy, I'll go and do another one. But we've at least taken him to the death part of this. And this one isn't as dramatic. This isn't like that idea that, when the time happened and it was finished and he was taken up into God's hands, and he said it was finished. He'd finished his work, and now you're ready to go. And again, this is representing what goes on the outside. Those princes and governors and captains and judges. These are all the chakra names for the different chakras, the different kingdoms, different people that are in charge of these particular places. So far, we haven't come across one hitch. All right. That means that Scripture is holding up to code, and it also means it hasn't been tampered with either. All right. So I'll see you guys later, tomorrow maybe, or a little later tonight if I come up and do one more. But, we're getting a little tired, all right? Talking all this Jesus. But I feel great, I do. There's nothing really else behind my wanting to quit, except it's been a long day. Damn, long day. I'll see you guys, and you're damn sure worth it.